Seersucker soup on a hot summer day. Coffee comes back in a nerve-wracking way. The dishes and laundry take the garbage out. What a day, what a day, what a day.
Welcome to Schenectady, Capital Region today. We're so happy that you're joining us today. We've got a great lineup today, great information. Lots of good things going on in our community, and we'll just be talking about many of them. We're going to be starting out with our first guest, which will be we'll be talking about the St. Clare's pension issue, and then we'll be talking about the Colonie Senior Centers and what they're doing to keep the seniors really active with all kinds of activities and classes. We're going to hear a little music too at that segment. And then we're going to be talking about a brand new business that's been maybe the past 6 months or so, the Clinton Street Mercantile in Schenectady. And you're going to find out maybe how you can get involved with that or how you can find some really gems for gift items. And then we have Bradley Lemire here. He's from my side, and we're going to be talking about weather to climate, and we're going to find out about the changing world that we live in. They have a new exhibit up, and then another new exhibit will be at the Schenectady County Historical Society, and that's handicrafted items, and it's the folk and their art. We'll find out more about that. And then, of course, one of my favorite guests is here, and she's going to be talking about those Girl Scout cookies. Oh, my. You know that sale is coming up, and we'll find out what cookies they have for sale now. We're going to be starting out with our first guest. Right? Oh, our breaks today, by the way, is going to be, since we did the Academy Awards, I did an interview with John Sayles, who's the film director out of Hollywood. He's an independent film director and up for a number of Academy Awards in the past. So I did an interview with him, and I thought you might enjoy seeing some of that. We're going to be talking right now with Peter Jones and with Mary Hartshorne. How do you pronounce it?
Hartshorne.
Hartshorne. I got it right. You're also listening to WOOC FM, and you're actually watching Schenectady Capital Region today. I'm Ann Pearl, your host, and with me I have Peter Jones. He is a board member. He's been on before. Mary Hartshorne is brand new. You're visiting the show, and you're the president of the St. Clare's Pensions Alliance. So let's talk about this has been going on a long time, it seems. You know, when did you Peter, when did you first come on the show to talk about this? This was like a couple years ago. So there's no resolution yet?
No resolution.
No resolution. Mary, what is your organization doing to facilitate some resolution or have, whether it be the government or the church, I mean, who's stepping up and who isn't?
The people who have really made a big impact on us is the attorneys that we have that are pro bono, and that encompasses legal aid attorneys and AARP attorneys, and I can't say enough about them. And we also have David Pratt, who's a law professor from Albany Law. David Pratt started with us back in 2015, has worked tirelessly pro bono in our behalf. So with those attorneys under their guidance, we've been able to organize into what we have now, St. Clare's Pension Recovery Alliance, and that's the part of the board that Peter's on. And we're focusing on that so that we can be a united group. We are certainly writing letters, emails, all sorts of things. We've been in the news, national news. But we also have to thank Senator Tedisco, Assemblyman Santa Barbara, Assemblyman Steck, a few of the others, Mary Jane Walsh, helping us to get the word out that we've lost our pension through no fault of our own, and there's no way to get it back unless we appeal to people. We've had absolutely no response from the governor, not even to an email, which is very disconcerting.
Yeah, it is. Usually they'll say, thank you for your inquiry, and we'll get back to you. How many pensioners are affected by this?
I believe it's 1,143.
So it's not just a shabby little number of 25 or so. We're talking a large number. Has there been a precedent for something like this to have happened across the country? Has this ever happened before, or are you kind of groundbreaking to to get through this by yourself without any, you know?
I'm pretty sure that in this state, there are other places that may have lost their pension. But I don't know of any who lost and were able to get it back.
Oh, that were
we
even
might be-
able to get it back?
Right.
There have been others that have been affected by this through the Catholic Church, the same manner that we have through a hospital that they worked and then it was removed. Some have gone to court and lost. Some are still in court fighting it, but we're not going to lose.
You're
We're
not
not
gonna
going to give up.
You're
We're
not gonna give
gonna
up. Where was this money held to begin with? When they took so much out of your pay, maybe, and a little bit out of their, whatever it is, and put it into this pension fund, where did that go? I mean, was that like in the bank? Was it like in somebody's pocket? Where was it?
First of all, we didn't contribute to it.
Oh, you didn't contribute?
They paid it,
Okay.
supposedly paid it.
They paid it in lieu of us giving up our raises many years.
So in essence, you did pay.
Right.
It is still your money because you gave up your pay raise for that. So it's important that we address the fact that this money is due you. It should be coming. It was agreed upon. There was probably no union at the time, but it was an agreement.
No union. Never a union.
Never a union. The fact that that money went somewhere, and of course, I don't know about anybody else. If you're watching this and you have a pension, did you ever ask anybody where that money, where are you keeping it? Are you putting it in annuities? Are you putting it in the stock market? What are you doing with it?
I believe it was held by Prudential.
Prudential, okay.
Prudential, and they were the people
The
that
caretaker.
invested it, the caretaker, the website that you would go to check on how much you had and all that.
But somebody, some entity, took that money out. Is that correct? Because it's not with Prudential
I
anymore.
think it was more they didn't put it in when they were supposed
Oh,
to.
they just kind of stopped contributing.
Right.
Ah, that's interesting.
And then we were led to believe in 2000, when was it, 2008, that the money they were putting in was going to make it whole. The state gave us $28 million when the Burger Commission,
Oh, the Burger Commission, yeah, they were the hospitals.
and they led us to believe at that time that it would make it whole. And they knew at that time that it wouldn't make it
Their
whole.
noses got real long,
Yeah.
right? Didn't quite
And,
make
that,
it.
and that's sad because a lot of people, I mean, between the two of us, we have over 70 years
Yeah.
service. And a lot of people, like myself, probably Mary, arranged our lives around having
What your
that
future
pension.
was going to be, yeah. Well, I think that the first message we want to get out is if Cuomo is watching, which he probably isn't, but you are watching. If you're watching, write him a note and say, please respond and help the pensioners because we need to get the word out. You need help. And I know that you're doing with your wonderful attorneys, your pro bono attorneys, they're working behind the scenes, but you need to garner a lot of support from the community to kind of start raising their voices a little bit. We're not talking a couple of people, we're talking 1,100 people. Their lives, their families, everything has changed. And if you double that, because maybe one was employed and one wasn't, it's a lot of people and children being affected by this. So please support them if you have any way of contacting some of them. And if you go to my Facebook page or you go to my webpage, you'll find that information there. And perhaps there are phone numbers there that you can call and maybe you can help them or whatever. You need help.
And we're still looking for people that are a part of those 1,100.
Yeah, good. We've been speaking with Peter Jones and Mary Hartshorne, and they are with the St. Clare's, let me get the title right, the St. Clare's Alliance for Pension Recovery Alliance. I got that now. And you've been listening to WOC-FM, the Hudson Mohawk Magazine, and you've been watching Schenectady Capital Region Today. Please stay tuned for our next guest. Hello, and with Channel 16, and what we're doing today is we are so pleased. If you look behind me, you'll see that we are in the historic Proctor's Theater, and we are so fortunate here to have with us John Sayles, who is a director, a screenwriter, an author, an actor. You do it all, don't you?
Editor, yeah.
Right. Maybe that's the way you keep your costs down and you're able to do some really great
in
stuff.
Honey Dripper, I play a truck driver. I do that occasionally.
Yeah, I see that you cameo. You're kind of like Alfred Hitchcock. You get in your
Well,
films.
not quite as Alfred Hitchcock. I'm not in every film,
Okay.
but I play small parts every once in a while.
Okay. John is a native of Schenectady, graduated from Mount Pleasant High School. We won't say what year, but anyway.
1968.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Because I didn't look that up.
Yeah.
So you're familiar with Schenectady. You have family here. And so we are so pleased that on the 18th of January, we will be showing. And here we are back again. That interview was done on Proctor's stage, by the way. It was really an interest and an honor to speak with John Sayles. Right now I have with me Caroline Barrett,
yeah.
right? And Sherry Bellucci, my friend Sherry. And Sherry was on our 1000th show because you played the guitar then, I think. And we're going to be talking with the Colonie Senior Centers. And they do a lot in the area. They cover a huge area, not just Colonie, it seems. You do everything. But Caroline, tell us what you are doing and why you brought Sherry with you.
So I work for Colonie Senior Service Centers, and we
You're
have
in wellness.
we have a new program called the Center, and I'm the director of lifelong wellness, and I oversee the center. It is a program that's for anyone who's age 55 or above, and we have classes, events, trips. We do a lot of connecting with seniors, and
I've been to the cooking classes.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
were
the
fun.
cooking classes are
they're
great.
Fun. They're demonstration, I guess, yeah.
we do 2 of those a month, and
Okay.
those are at our King Thiel building, and I'm based out of the Beltrone in Colonie. So yeah, Sherry is part of our.
She's an instructor. So
She's-
Sherry, what do
yeah.
you teach?
Ukulele.
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 That's actually the correct pronunciation.
Ukulele. Okay, good. And you want to play something?
Sure.
Yeah.
A little something.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
So
Kinda
if
get a little-
you take my class, you'll learn this. Okay.
Do they have to bring their own ukuleles?
Yes, they do. Yes, they have to bring their own.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Gonna do "You Are My Sunshine." Maybe you could join me. Okay. The audience. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
That's great. Now we have some photos, and I think when we look at the photos, we'll get an idea of the different classes that you have. So can we bring up some of the photos? Now, what is that? That looks like painting and art.
Yeah, that is a painting class that we taught. The one on the left there with the trees, our instructor is Angela Cuozzo, who's a graphic designer and a muralist in Albany, and she led people through this lesson on the stormy tree, learning how to use
Nice.
acrylics with some Sharpie marker, and it was great connecting.
Now,
It
these
was
are not
fun.
people that live at Beltrone. This
No.
can be anybody.
Yep.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter where you live.
How do they find out about these classes?
Well, we have this catalog that we produce 4 times a year,
Okay, good.
and we spread the word. We try very hard to
It
spread
looks
the
like they're
word.
doing stamp theirs, or what is
So
it?
that is that's a rubber stamping class
Yeah.
that we do. We do that maybe about once a month, and then there's a trip that one of our trips is
Sacred
called
Places, it
Sacred
looks like,
Spaces.
yeah.
Yes, and that was the Presbyterian Church in Albany, I believe.
Okay.
Beautiful church.
Yeah.
That was the Haunted Capitol tour that we did.
Oh, wow.
It's funny because there were so many people who live in our area and
Never been there,
Never
probably.
been there. Never been there. So
Yeah.
that was a pretty cool
Yeah,
event.
yeah,
We have what's called happy hour.
Chinese. Well, that's a Chinese New
Yeah,
Year.
we did Chinese New Year. We had a visiting scholar come and talk to us about the traditions, the art, the food, and how you make these paper cutouts
Yep.
out of red and put in your windows. So that was great fun. This is an embroidery class that we are doing with. She's teaching us how to do this mandala. It's beautiful. Mine doesn't look quite like that, but But yeah, she's lovely. This is Indian Ladder Farms that we
So
went.
you do trips and everything.
We
then.
do trips. We have events and we have trips. You know, we do a lot of local things, but we do some. This was the this is Schuyler Mansion, and that's a strength training class that we have on the top.
So there's a lot going on. Now, how do they find out if they get this brochure, or will this be on your website?
It's on our website. We post a lot on Facebook.
Okay, good.
We do a lot of talking. We talk. We
You're
go.
here.
You're
here today.
We talk to clubs and we talk to people. We really try and spread the word that way.
Yeah, because it's important to stay active. Because what I just read an article on loneliness, that there's an issue of they're isolated. They feel isolated. Even if they live in an apartment thing, or complex, there's still that isolation that they feel. They need activities to go out there and do that. Do you have bus trips?
We do bus trips. We're going to Weowaka this summer, which is a women's retreat.
That's
and
up north.
Yes, it is. It's in Lake George. We're going to a maple syrup farm in March.
Okay.
And we're going to tour the governor's mansion in April.
So who's your population?
Well,
I know you said 55 and above,
Right,
but
yeah.
what geographically is your population?
you know, I have people who come from Troy. I have people who come from Schenectady. I have a group of women who come from Clifton Park. That, you know, it's really all over the place. It's everyone and anyone.
Yeah, so it's important if you're watching this now or you know someone who might be, you know, now retired and they're looking for a few things to do. Not that there isn't anything to do in the area. Believe me, I see it all. This is just a wonderful way to take a class, learn how to play the ukulele.
Now we
I'd
know
like
how to
to
say it.
that doing music really helps the brain, and especially for seniors, keeps you going and has a lot of benefits.
And I recently read that if you like to do puzzles and you do puzzles all the time, forget that. Learn something new.
It is about
Whether
doing something
it's
new.
embroidery or it's, I mean, whatever it is, if you've never played music, play music. It's the idea of getting new pathways in the brain.
It is. Well, and it's about connecting with people. So you're going out and you're playing ukulele or you're embroidering or you're going on a trip. You're connecting with people.
Yeah, and don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
Because everybody has a story to tell. So if you sit next to somebody, ask them a question.
Right.
Don't talk about yourself. Ask them a question.
Right, right.
And you'll find out that maybe they're the most interesting person that you've ever met.
Right, right.
Yeah. How many are in your staff?
On the Colonie Senior Service staff?
Well, I mean, to do what you do here.
You know, it's me. And
Oh, it's me. Tag, it's me.
I have a lot of volunteers
Okay.
that I work with every day, and I have a lot of instructors that work with me as well.
Right. And now if someone's watching and there's something that they would like to teach, that they feel they have something to teach,
Oh, that's great. I would love that. Yeah.
They should contact
They
you.
should contact me.
okay.
Yeah.
Because anything that's, how about cards? Like somebody wants to learn to play bridge. Do you do that?
You know, we do. We have clubs that that come and meet, and we are playing Wii Sports, and we just got I can't remember the name of the game where you throw the bags, the bean bags.
Beanbag throw?
Well, we're doing more than more than just paying to take a class,
Yeah.
but we are bringing people together and
So you can have
connecting.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also I want to mention that we are having this International Women's Day event.
Great.
This is March 8th from noon to 3 for
And if you'll leave
anyone and
that
everyone.
For me, I'll scan it in. And,
Okay, great.
And put it
great.
out.
Yeah, that's for everyone.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. And I also want to mention that Sherry's a little bit shy here. She doesn't just play the ukulele, or the guitar. She plays with the Colonie Jammers, and she sings and everything. So
She's a woman of many
if you get a
talents.
chance to hear of the Colonie Jammers performing, you'll want to check with them because they're really great. They're a lot of fun, and I love your music. And
Thank you.
okay, thank you both for being
Thank
here,
you.
and we'll try
Thank
to
you.
keep getting the word out. And
Great.
this will be on Facebook as well as on my webpage. So.
I just want to add that
Yeah.
I've taken classes and they're wonderful.
Yeah.
And they're fun.
Well, I'm going to start doing that. I know
Great.
that. All I need is to find out what classes are coming up. We're going to take another quick break and look at that John Sayles interview. And then when we come back, we are going to be talking about those Clinton Street Mercantile and how you can get involved with that, either by purchasing something or maybe participating. Who knows? Stay tuned.
1950 in a little crossroads town in cotton country called Harmony, Alabama. Danny Glover plays a guy who's the proprietor of the Honey Dripper Lounge, and he's still presenting kind of live blues music from the 30s and 40s.
Great stuff.
And it's great stuff,
Yeah.
but he's not making a living at it because his competitor across the street has a jukebox, and everybody's crowding in there to listen to the jukebox. And he needs one big Saturday night to pay the rent, pay the chicken man, pay the liquor man, pay the electric bill because he's stealing electricity from the power company, and kind of save this club and save really his position in the town. You know, he's an African-American man in the Deep South in 1950, and somehow he manages to be his own man, and that's what he's going to live.
Well, right now I have with me Brandon and Michelle. They're both the co-owners of their Whittalls is their name, and they have the Clinton Street Mercantile. It's a great store. It's really neat. We got a photo of it up there. But I want to know, where did you get the idea to do this?
Well, I mean, I think we own a retail company that does painted furniture, and so we wanted to.
So it was a natural, the
Right.
idea.
Yeah, we're kind of makers, and we wanted to open our own shop. Couldn't really figure out how to do that, as just be able to quit your jobs, jump into a retail store as a maker, and so we really felt like there had to be other people in the same boat.
And there are.
Right. And so that's kind of where it was developed from, where it came from, and so it's developed as a small business incubator for makers, people hand making items.
So you, how does that work? In other words, someone's watching and they make, say they make one night's, a bedstand or something, and they decorate it with like a folk art, that kind of thing, and they love doing it, and they look great, and their neighbors say, you really should do more of these and sell them. Could they contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So because we're a handmade, 95% of our products are handmade by local makers. So all they'd have to do is reach out. We do have an application process because we curate the space.
Yeah, you want to know what
right.
who
We
you're
want to
dealing
make sure
with.
everything fits and we don't have too much of one thing and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, they can absolutely reach out.
Okay, and then is it on consignment? Is that how that works? I mean, just to give them an idea of how they would participate.
So it's a little bit of both, and so like I said, we want to help people go from like selling online to selling in a brick and mortar to maybe opening their own brick and mortar. So it's a combination of both. So we do have like a small booth fee where they lease a space.
Okay.
They build that space out based off of their business, the way it looks, the way however they want
So
to get it
it's
set
their-
up. So
it's
their
their
space.
space.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there is a small consignment on the back end, so it's a little bit, and that really just
well,
helps.
you have to pay rent.
Right.
Right.
Nobody's giving you anything.
Right.
I've been in business. I know you got a lot of expenses. You got
Yeah.
lights. You got the heat. You got the whole. And if you got Wi-Fi, I mean, there's so much that goes into owning a business.
Right.
Right.
So when people say, "Oh, gee, they want a percent," well, yeah. I mean, you're using this space. You're not renting a place. They are.
Right.
You're also thinking of opening up another one. Did I hear?
We actually are opening another one. So we
Where's
just
that?
met with them. It's going to be 262 Lark Street.
Okay.
So it will be in Albany. We are it's looking like the space is going to be ready, and we'll be opening the second week of March in that ballpark.
You're
so,
going to have your hands
so we're pretty
full, you
excited.
guys.
Yeah.
How exciting
More
is this?
opportunity for a whole different market of makers and a whole different client and customer base in
Yeah.
Albany. So we're excited about excited about that.
To me, this is so exciting. I believe, and I've talked about small business before in working with Downtown Schenectady Improvement Corporation. It's so important to go out, look at things, support your local makers. And the
Yes.
reason is those local makers are putting money back into your community.
Right.
That's right.
When you buy something online, it may be in Bentonville, Arkansas, or
Yeah.
somewhere else, it sure as heck isn't going to be here.
Right.
So it's really important to support your local makers, the local businesses that have a brick and mortar right on the street.
Yep.
Not only that, it's kind of nice to walk around and shop.
Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's one of the good things about our shop too, is because you get so much different variety in one
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right across from the old Citizens Bank,
Correct.
right in that
Yep.
area. And what are they putting in there? I guess they're
Oh
going
my
to tear
goodness.
that down.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know. We haven't heard the updates yet.
I don't know. I mean, there's so much going on downtown.
Yeah.
If you haven't been here, there is a lot. If you're thinking about shopping, We have so many nice little shops.
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yours being one, and then there's other ones down there. There's you talk J Street, and there's and
Right.
just walk around, and I see this so much in the spring when people are out there for their lunch hour, and I see them popping into places. It's just what happened to that downtown that we
Right.
had many years ago? It's not going to be what it was, but we are seeing local makers and local business people that are willing to open up a shop and do it, whether it's a coffee shop or an Irish shop. We have the Irish and different things coming up. There's a lot of restaurants too. We got great restaurants.
Oh
here,
yeah,
don't
some
we?
really
Yeah.
good ones.
So tell me, if I were to walk in, what would be some of the things I would see in your shop?
So we've got, like Brandon said, we've got
You have
all
food?
kinds of variety. We have some chocolate. We have
Maple syrup.
maple syrup. There's local honey. So
There you
some of
go.
those kind of
Okay.
things. And then we have handmade soaps and lotions and jewelry and bags and quilts and, I mean, all kinds of unique things. And we like the fact that we really do have unique things that you can't find in a lot of other places. So that's something nice too.
Right.
They're unique.
Right, they're
designed.
handmade. So a lot
Yeah.
of things are one of a kind, and if it's gone, it might not come back. So
Right.
Well, one of the things that I find is when you go for something like a dinner, I'm invited out to dinner, and I go, what can I bring? You know, and
Mm-hmm.
a bottle of wine. You know, well, not everybody wants a bottle of wine. Maybe they don't drink. You'd like to bring something else, so
Right.
that's why I asked if you had food, because
Right.
sometimes it's nice to bring a handmade
Sure.
fudge or things
Right.
that you just that
Right.
are unique.
right.
Right.
Now, do you deal with art at all?
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. We have several artists that, from painters to sculptors, kind of all over the
So
the
you have
gamut on
different-
that. Pottery.
And pottery is big.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Who doesn't like pottery? And that's a great gift to give as a
Right.
housewarming gift or something for dinner. A nice serving dish of some sort.
Right.
So how many makers do you have that are
We-
working with you now?
Currently, we have about 30 in Clinton Street Mercantile.
30, that's a lot.
Yeah.
What are your hours?
So we do Wednesday through Saturday
Okay.
is 11 to 5, and then Sundays we're open from 11 to 2 o'clock.
That's great because you have the downtown Green Market.
Yes.
Market,
Yeah.
So people can get out and
Right.
walk around and
Right.
do that. So you have that. Do you find that you have more contributors than you have space?
Right now we're not full, so we do have some open space. So we have a pretty large space here in Clinton Street.
I
and
know.
So
it's,
we've
now
got.
did we show the pictures? I'm sorry. I was chit-chatting. I wasn't looking at the screen, but let's take a look at the photos one more time, even if you've put them up before. Okay, we're looking at the interior.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. That's correct. And so that's kind of like from a register view and kind of shoots down the
Okay.
whole space. So we have about 4,500 square feet there.
Oh, that's a large area.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so it's definitely tons of space, and like I said, we have about 30 makers.
And
we
that's
have
from
space for
the
a little
front
bit more.
looking back, is that it?
That's from the back of the
Back.
space
front,
looking out
okay.
to the front. Huge windows. It's,
Yeah.
it's actually a gorgeous space.
From here, I can't really see too well what I'm looking at. But
Yeah, there's some nice architectural stuff on the inside
yeah,
of there. So.
and that building's been around a while,
Oh,
too.
right.
So
Yeah.
it's been
Right.
revitalized.
Yep.
Well, we want to encourage you to, first of all, shop local.
Yep.
Shop the makers, the people that are being creative and making things.
Yeah.
Buy a unique gift. Don't just buy, something off of eBay or something, but buy a unique gift and support our local establishment.
Yes.
Clinton Street, what's your address?
So 148 Clinton Street.
148 Clinton. And if you're not sure where that is, it's just right off State Street, and it's right across from where the big Citizens Bank, which is no longer the Citizens Bank.
Right.
And the Shamrock, you have a couple
Yes.
of bars over
Yeah, they're
there.
right there, right behind SEFCU.
Yeah,
Yep.
right there. So you can't miss it. So just get out there and support your local businesses. I'm Ann Perella. You're listening to actually Brandon and Michelle Whittall. They are the owners and creators of this, and they're opening up a new place in Lark Street. Yay! Stay tuned for our next guest. Thank you both for being here.
Story that is in my last collection, Dillinger in Hollywood, which was a contemporary story about a 40-year-old drummer and a 20-year-old band. But he meets an old guy in the course of the story who tells him something. And I just feel, well, what about making a movie about that old guy when he was 20 years old?
Oh, Oh, that, so you kind of, it was a spin
Took
on
a
it.
character and just used that
Embellished
inspiration.
on it. Yeah, that's great. So you wrote the screenplay for Honey Dripper, and now you have to find a musician. So how do you find a musician, or did you have someone in mind?
No, I try not to have people in mind when I write things because so often you're
Weather to climate, our changing world. Boy, oh boy, is it changing.
It is indeed.
Isn't it? I heard
is
that
indeed.
Antarctica was 65 degrees.
Yes, yes.
Is that possible?
It is.
I guess so. It happened. Right now I have Bradley Lemire with me. He's a brand new at MySci, Museum of Innovation and Science. He's the director of communication and marketing, or marketing and communication. I guess I flipped those. So tell us a little bit about this exhibit it just went up, right?
Yeah, it just went up. This is an exhibition that was created by the Chicago Academy of Sciences. And we are very fortunate to have it at MySci.
That's great.
And explores weather, the phenomena of weather in association with climate, which people
They get
often,
confused, don't
yeah,
they?
they get confused by that. You know, weather
Yeah.
is something that occurs over a very short period
Short
of time.
period of time. A
Climate-
flash.
Climate is over a very extended
Yeah.
period of time. But
And
they
we
are-
do know that the world is warming up.
It is warming up.
Even
and-
though they'll say, it was 18 degrees below zero yesterday. What do you mean warming up? You know,
Yeah.
it's like, no, you got to look at
Well, the two are inextricably linked. You really can't, talk about one without talking about the other.
Exactly. So this exhibit, it looks big. Let's look at the pictures. Perhaps that might be helpful.
So it's it's about 5,000 square feet. So it's a rather sizable exhibition. That's one portion of it there. There are a lot of interactives in the exhibition itself.
I see the
as you can
kids
see
really
here, yeah.
get involved with it.
That's a spinning wheel where they can spin the wheel, and it has animals that reside in different climates, and based upon where the wheel lands, it'll automatically show information.
That's great. Kids love. I
on
mean,
that animal.
I like that stuff. Look, it looks like we're going to go swimming there, right?
Yeah, so that's an interactive table where there's little puzzle pieces, and the children
Okay.
have to match the puzzle piece with the correct climate.
Oh,
So-
okay, great.
And that's actually very popular. The children can come and they can actually be weathermen. So they can stand in front of a green screen.
Hey, yeah.
And actually the president, Dr. Gina Gould, and I were using that yesterday, and we were having quite a bit of fun ourselves. So
I can imagine.
it's something for all ages. But what I think is nice is that the exhibition, climate change is a very serious issue, but this exhibition makes it fun. And
Well, maybe makes it more understandable too,
Yeah.
with having fun doing it. Learning about it. This exhibit to me is for adults and children,
Oh, absolutely.
obviously, to understand how can we change the way things are going. Does this exhibit talk about CO2 emissions and how the world is changing and how perhaps we can affect a better outcome?
it does. It does. There's no doubt that human habits have had a profound impact on climate change, but it does also highlight the ways in which we can work to reverse that. And I think that MySci, our role is really to help educate these future generations, on the various ways in which they can have a positive impact on their environment and on the climate as a whole.
Yeah, and we do have some power to help, whether it's recycling, whether it's just basically trying to live a better life without all the emissions that we create. There's electric cars and things. Do you address some of the things that people can do?
We do. There's a couple of interactives that actually asks the participants to make choices. So, there's one video where you go throughout an entire day, and you're getting up in the morning. Are you going to choose to ride a bike, take a car, take the bus? If you ride the bike, it's going to be, less of an impact
emissions,
on,
yeah.
less of an impact on the environment. It's right to, what are you going to eat for lunch? How are you going to, what are you going to do in your leisure time when you get home? Things of that sort. So things that I think people, think are very small, you really can have a really large impact.
If everybody does
in a
it,
collective
that
sense,
it
yeah.
becomes a big thing. I think when you talk about that, and we talk about recycling many times, it begins in the very beginning as to how do you buy your products. You know, do you want all that packaging? Can you get away from packaging? And they're doing the big thing with the plastic bag ban, by the way. Make sure you got your cloth bags with you. But at least you would have that, the way of knowing that you're doing something, and to teach your kids to do to be conscious about this. And I was listening to the radio actually this morning, and they were talking about, oh, who bothers to recycle those bottles, you know? And it was like they were serious about it. That it was like, you want to take the time to do it. No, it doesn't have. Isn't that do you have the time to do it? It's an obligation that you have to our future generation.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately the lesson we're trying to teach the children and teach the future generations, right? You know, this is an obligation. This is their planet, you know, and they play an important role in preserving it.
And you have a planetarium. You got some shows going on.
We do
Something new. I heard you have a new show.
We do have a number of shows in association with this exhibition, and it kind of studies or shows the ways in which people have analyzed weather and climates through astronomy and cosmology over the ages. So it's
that's
a
interesting.
really interesting show.
And that's on every day. Do you do that?
Yeah, every day they have that exhibition.
Okay, good.
Or that planetarium show.
Great. And I know, you know, if you think about, oh, I've been to a museum. Yeah, I was there a couple years ago. It's like, no. You got to go frequently because things change. And there's more things to see. Like they just had the cooking insatiable. And now they're climate. And then there's going to be another one after this. And they work with other museums to bring in new exhibits. And even though you create your own many times, we did the cooking insatiable. But we need to know that this is a living museum. I call it a living museum because there are museums where you go look at rocks and the rocks are going to be there 20 years from now, the same rocks will be there. But no, this is not that kind of museum. It's a museum of innovation and science.
Yeah,
so.
it's a special place, you know, and we're always trying to introduce exhibitions that are relevant, you know, to what's going on now, and I think this is a perfect example of that.
Not only that, but you do the Harry Potter, you do the bubbles, you do the, I mean, you do everything.
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything.
The trains and the
family
butterflies.
days are coming up. Yeah, so we have after hours, which is for our 21 and over crowd. You know, they can come and enjoy the museum, see some of our exhibitions, while also taking advantage of some really fantastic craft beverages.
Yeah, nice.
From the area. But we also have family days, which is what you were talking about. You know, with the Harry Potter Day. And the fantastic bubble day and things of that sort.
And you do the innovation. Are you still doing the inventions?
We are going to be doing that again this year.
Too. See, I mean, so much going on.
So there's a lot going on.
And get a membership. Get a membership. I have my membership. I am a card-carrying member.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yes. So get your membership, and not only that, it gets you into the museum free for the next next time. So
it has a lot of benefits.
Well, welcome to Schenectady, Capital Region today. I hope you're on again a few times and keep us posted on what's going on there and the wonderful museum. Plenty of parking, right?
Plenty of parking.
And if you really like space, you got to check out that Challenger Learning Center.
Yeah, that's a fantastic experience.
Have you been on one of those space?
I haven't personally been on one of those yet.
Okay.
Although I hope to sometime soon.
Did you get the satellite? You haven't been on satellite yet?
The satellite?
Yeah.
No, I haven't been on that one yet. No.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, you go from the Challenger's mission control to the satellite, you know. Space,
the International Space Station.
Yeah, Space Station.
Yeah, it was a
well, satellite. I said satellite, but it was Space Station. Yeah. So much going on. Check it out. Go to Planetarium Show. Bring your kids. Forget all that other stuff. Just go and have a good time, right?
Well, thank you, Anna.
Yeah, thanks, Bradley. I'm looking forward to having you on again. But you know, there's another exhibition coming up, and that's going to be at Schenectady County Historical Society, and we're going to be talking with them next about that. So if you've been listening to our WOOC FM, and we've been talking with Bradley Lemire. He is the Marketing and Communications Director at MySci, and check it out. Stay tuned.
And blues guitar, you know, turning into rock and roll, and I wanted somebody who's you know
Who was flexible there,
and who can really play on screen, because you know we're having the guys play live on screen, and you know with a piano you can hide behind it. Yeah, and luckily we have a friend who's one of the founders of the South by Southwest Music Festival in Austin, Texas. And he heard what the movie was about and that we needed this guy. And he said, you know, there's a kid down, he may be too young, but I've been seeing Gary Clark Jr. play since he was 14 years old. And he's played with all these blues legends.
And here we are back again, and I have Susie Fout with me. She's a curator at the Schenectady County Historical Society, and I assume that you do all of their curations. Is that?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
For both.
Even at the baby farm and
Yes,
stuff? Yeah.
correct. Yep.
Good. So they have 2 locations, actually.
We
So,
do.
Actually 3. You got
We
the
do.
Brower
We have
House
3.
now.
Yes.
Brower House.
Yes.
So tell me, is that open now, the Brower House?
The Brower House is open by appointment.
Okay.
Right now, we are using it as a creative space for local artisans. So we have several local artists that are
Oh,
working within
nice.
the space, and it is open for tours. Just give us a call and set something up, and we can give you a tour of the site.
Oh, yeah. And where is that located?
It's located on North Church Street.
Okay.
So yeah, right in the stockade.
And why is that house important?
So that house, it's an early Schenectady house, and it has a lot of history as a location in the stockade. It's been locally owned, obviously, and it's one of the earlier houses.
And it's been donated.
It's
is
been
it?
donated, yes.
Yeah, how
yes.
nice. But let's talk about the exhibit now,
Yes.
because that's what you hear about. But of course, I'm always interested in other things that are going on. So you have the exhibit. It's called Handcrafted, and it's the folk and their art.
Yes. Yep.
What folk?
So folk art it's one of those things that's kind of hard to define, but when you see it, you know it.
You know it, yeah.
It's considered art that's created by sort of everyday people. It's not untrained professionals that are creating this art. It's mostly utilitarian.
Like making the spoons.
Yeah, stuff like that.
The wooden spoons. And
Yep, and it's everything from paintings to decorative art to practical items that are made. Yep, exactly.
And I think probably the first ones that were made were probably dolls for the kids to keep the kids with
actually,
toys.
it's even earlier than that. But yeah, dolls, playthings are definitely considered folk art as well. Yes.
Yeah, and so what folk art would they see there? We've got a couple photos. Let's take a look at the photos.
So we have stoneware, we have painted tin, and then we also have dolls as well that are featured in the exhibit.
Now that doll that we see there on the upper left
Yes.
there, how old would that doll
So
be?
that doll is from the late 1800s, and it's a handmade doll, and that's sort of the premise of all folk art. It's all handmade stuff. It's not stuff that's being mass produced. So each piece is
And
one
it's
of a
what they
kind.
have in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Do they use a lot of organic items when they make things like this? I know I've heard about the corn husk dolls and things like that.
Yeah, so this doll itself is mostly made out of textiles, so it has a sock base actually, and it's a handmade clothing.
Okay. And what's below that? I can't quite tell.
That is a painted tinware, so you would have local
Like for
artisans
keeping
and
bread in
craftsmen,
it or something?
anything. So tinware, I mean, anything that you want to keep in a little box. So these craftsmen would make tin, and then people would paint them just to give some creativity and life and decoration to the object.
So a lot of this art came out of practicality to what they needed.
Yes. Yep.
Now, what are we looking there? Because it looks like there's a chair there.
Yeah, so folk art is everything from weather vanes to tavern signs to painted boxes, painted furniture. And then also we have an example of scrimshaw, which is made by seamen in the whaling industry. So they would go out to sea and they would take whale's teeth or even the bones of the whales, and they would engrave them, etch them with different designs, and then adds either soot or some sort of ink into it to make the design pop out. And one of the things that's interesting about scrimshaw is that a lot of people consider it to be it's part of the whaling industry, which people associate with more like Boston or Connecticut and those types of places. But actually, the Hudson Valley did have its own place in the whaling industry, and a lot of the people that were on these ships actually ended up settling in central New York, and so a lot of the scrimshaw is still locally.
It's still, yeah. Now, what would you use something. Is that just something you would hang on the wall? Would you wear it as jewelry? What would you
So
do?
they had all sorts of purposes, but mostly, yeah, they were made for art. They were made as keepsakes, either to give back to people at home. A lot of times, people would make actual utilitarian items out of it. They would make toys out of them. So it runs the gamut. It's pretty amazing.
Because I was kind of curious about that. So you have the scrimshaw. We have a lot of pottery. I know you have some of the old pottery.
Yes.
Some of those old jugs and things.
Yeah,
Those
stoneware,
are
yes.
considered folk art, even though they were utilitarian.
Yes, they are. So the ones that are considered folk art are the ones that are decorated or painted. So it's not necessarily just the plain ones. So you have a potter who is skilled in pottery himself, but then they're not necessarily a skilled artisan in the act of painting or whatever. But they would still paint these pieces in order to give them a decorative feel to them. And they would use their own creativity and their own just innate artistry to imbue their pieces with something
Now,
unique.
we're talking about like solid things. What about textiles?
Textiles
is that
as well,
part
yeah.
of folk
Yeah,
art?
yeah.
So that would be like quilting?
Quilts,
or-
yep. Women actually played a very large part in the folk arts. They're very adept at. They were taught in school how to sew and to sing, and to those were the types of things that were being taught. And they also did lots of painting as well. So those are all elements of folk
Genteel
art.
stuff,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I mean, it was like women weren't really taught, like how to run a business or things like
Correct.
that. They were taught to cook,
Yes,
to do the,
yeah.
and probably you need that delineation at that time.
Yes.
Because somebody had to be taking care of the kids and making sure.
Well, in the 17 and 1800s, especially in rural communities such as Schenectady, women were actually just as important as men in terms of providing for their family or contributing to the survival of their family. They were important
gardening
in yep, exactly, in gardening and canning and preserving food, in growing and making flax, would in turn that into wool, into yarn, and creating clothing for their family. And during the Industrial Revolution, some of the first industries to be industrialized are these things that women were doing. So preserving and canning food, textiles. So it's kind of like a backlash against the Industrial Revolution, if you will. Women start creating these, it's sort of like a self-identity thing. So they became really interested in creating these elaborate works of art through their sewing and the skills that they were taught in school.
And what an evolution
Yes.
of women when we look at it. I mean, you and I are both women, and you look at, I think probably World War II was part of that evolution because women went to work,
Exactly,
which was
yeah.
really the first real push of getting women to do things other than typing and being a secretary,
Right, exactly.
to do manual things. So it's the historical aspect of this. There's no end to it.
Yes.
Because no matter what area that you look at, whether it be the art or whether just textiles or whether you're talking about schooling or whatever, there's that evolution in all those areas that changed our lives
Yeah.
forever,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So do you have another exhibition coming up after this or one at the Maybe Farm? I know you do art out there.
So yes, we will be doing a new exhibition at the Maybe Farm in October. So we do a couple rotating exhibits a year. We also have our regular exhibits that are on in both the museum and at Maybe Farm.
Yeah. So we want to thank Susie Fout for being here today. She's with the Schenectady County Historical Society, and I urge you to join the Historical Society. They have great speakers coming up. There's always something. I know I'm always looking. They take trips.
Yes. Yeah, we're trying to stay very active. We have a really wonderful slate of speakers for the spring, for the winter and the spring, and then we have a couple big trips coming up to the Metropolitan Museum and the Museum of Natural History in New York City.
Some of those are day trips, some are a little bit longer.
Yep,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
And the walking tours.
And the walking tours
Those
will
are
yep.
so much fun.
Once
yeah.
the weather starts to warm up, we'll be beginning our walking tours again. We'll be doing our kayaking tours again. So
if you're looking for something interesting to do, there's always something interesting going on. It's not just a museum where you just kind of look at things. There's stuff going on all the time. Great speakers and challenging your thinking on many things. So I really like it. They just had Bill Buell. I think you had Bill Buell there too.
Yep, he was
Talk
there.
about the socialist mayor.
Yes,
That was
yes,
a while back.
Yep.
So there's so many things going on. So enjoy what we have in our community. no matter where you live in our community, there's something going on in your community. But if you want to reach out and you live in Albany, come to the Schenectady County Museum or Schenectady County Historical Society and see what's going on there. Thank you so much, Susie, for being here, and we'll look forward to having you on again soon. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about cookies. Oh, yes, cookies. So stay tuned.
Danny, you know, was the first guy we got because he's like the main character in it. And once we had him, it opened a lot of doors to the agents of other actors. Keb Mo, who's a really well-known, blues guitarist and writer. He plays a part in it. And then we got some other guys who are in the band who hadn't acted before but are great players. And they're just supposed to be playing cool musicians, and cool musicians can play themselves.
Exactly. And what's exciting, I love Stacy Keach. I mean, he's an old-time actor. Well, not really old, but he's been around a while.
Yeah.
And wonderful. And Charles Dunn.
Mary Steenburgen.
Mary Steenburgen, she's wonderful too. So you have a great cast that you were able to put together. And I noticed when I looked through your filmology, you have certainly have certain people that. We're back, and look what we got. Louise, a brand new cookie here, huh?
It is.
Lemon Ups. I love lemon cookies.
You're going to really love these cookies.
I am? Okay. It's a crisp lemon cookie baked with inspiring messages.
Yes, from our girls.
And what's this? Is this a new one? No? No, this is
Our s'mores.
Those are popular.
And of course,
Your mint. And
the most popular of all.
yeah, really, everybody loves those mint. One of the things I learned recently was that you have vegan, but those are the mints, right?
Yes.
But you also have, if you're gluten-free.
We do. Our toffee-tastics for those who can't eat gluten. We have an opportunity to still enjoy Girl Scout cookies with our toffee-tastic. It's very popular. It seems to sell out very well every year.
So, I mean, there are people that do have celiac disease and many of the other conditions where gluten does not agree with them very well.
Correct.
But you don't want to have to give up those cookies.
That's true, and that's why they're so popular.
Right. Now, when Mary came on, I said, "Are you taking orders today?" And Mary said, "I can't take orders because I'm not a Girl Scout."
That's true.
You're a leader.
I'm a leader. Leaders can't take orders, the girls. But if you don't know a Girl Scout, contact our offices. They'll be happy to put you in touch with a girl, or check our website. And when we have booth sales in April, we actually have a cookie finder. So if you just put your zip code in, we can direct you to any one of the hundreds of locations where girls will have booths.
So you do this like at the mall or something?
At the mall, at local convenience stores, in front of occasionally.
When the weather's better.
April, yes, when the weather's much better than it is now.
But you're taking orders now.
We're taking orders now, and those will be delivered. Those cookie orders will be delivered at the end of March.
So you have two waves of cookies. Is that it?
We do. The big wave now. Girls are taking orders from their family, their friends, their neighbors. The second round, and girls go into the public places or the mall and stores, and out front you'll see those tables with girls.
Do you have contests? Do these kids try and compete with each other?
You know, occasionally we do. The girls earn some awards as well. Some of those contests, not so they're contesting against each other, but they get to go on trips if they sell certain amounts, like to New York City or Niagara Falls.
Nice.
And for girls who really sell a lot, even to Disney World. So lots of opportunities for girls.
Well, you got to sell a lot to get to Disney World, I bet.
You do, but we get more girls going on trips with their troops or going camping, which is a great fun. We do a camp every summer called Cookie Camp for the top selling girls, and last year we had over 200 girls.
Really?
Yes.
They probably really get energized. They probably say, "Dad, bring this to work. Mom, bring that to work."
They do, and the girls themselves are big sellers. Girls have actually digital pages, so they can invite their friends and neighbors to even order cookies online and use a credit card, and then they just deliver the cookies when they come.
Are we getting into this? This is just getting so digital and streamlined.
We are modern and in the 21st century.
Exactly. How many different? Let's take a look at some of those cookies, because we do have our photo up there, and maybe you can tell us what we're looking at when we look at those photos.
Sure.
There we go.
Here we go. So you can see Girl Scout cookie booth. Looks like the Do-si-dos on top, and of course the very popular Samoas, which are the caramel coconut chocolate. And of course, Lemon Ups that you spoke of earlier, a brand new cookie. And imprinted, you can see some of the sayings that a girl might, as a Girl Scout, be saying. All of these are well loved. Another, here we have a girl. This is out one of the delivery trucks. We have to work with, if you can appreciate, selling almost 1 million boxes of cookies.
I just can't even imagine that.
We have what looks like our Thin Mints in the lower right corner, and over to the other side with the Girl Scout outline. Those are our trefoils. There's the toffee tassocks there in the middle, and I think those are the tagalongs, which are the peanut butter chocolate covered cookies.
Yeah, those are good, yeah.
Those are good too, yes.
So you have, let's see, is there another one? No, I guess that's
No,
it.
I think those are.
I tried to get them all in there. I was the
Yes,
one that put them
thank
all in
you.
there, yeah. Because there's a variety. How many different kinds of cookies? Can you remember?
Oh, you know, I think we have, I'm thinking out loud here, 7 varieties.
7, okay.
Which I think is quite a few.
That's
So
a variety. And most people will say, I'll take one of each, or, you know.
You know, it depends. We have people who stock up on the Thin Mints. They freeze beautifully. So they might get themselves several months worth of Thin Mint supply.
Months? Oh, it's-
Well, they have big freezers.
They don't hold up that long. I mean,
And they do.
No.
Well,
I'm eating them,
if you're,
that's why.
if you're eating them, no, they don't hold up very well at all.
They don't hold up when you eat them all.
Yes.
You know.
But anyway, you know, the Girl Scout cookie program has been over 100 years, and girls just really, you know, not just, you know, the fun of selling cookies, but what they learn.
Well,
you
they
know.
learn management, they learn time management, they learn
do.
money management.
They do. How to set goals for themselves, make decisions, business ethics, you know, in terms of really, you know, being honest about how they're managing money and what they tell their customers, and how to communicate. For a young girl, I remember myself when you're 7, even walking around the neighborhood trying to reach your neighbors and would you buy my box of cookies?
Well,
It's
and
scary.
kids are shy. They're shy. They just, you know, they don't want to approach an adult. This forces them to approach an adult
It
on their
does.
level.
Yes, and that kind of practice becomes valuable to them as they grow and they develop the self-confidence to do more of
And
it.
that's what Girl Scouting is.
It is.
Self-confidence,
Yep,
empowering women,
absolutely.
making them stronger and looking goal-oriented.
And hopefully grooming our future leaders.
Exactly, and we do need good women leaders.
Yes, we do.
In this. Now, before we go on, I'm just going to say who's coming on next week, and then of course we're coming back and just finishing discussing this. We have such a great show, I'm telling you. Next week we're going to talk about African American history, and we're going to be talking about John Henry, the steel driving man. And we're going to be talking about Circle Theater Players, All My Sons. Classic Theater Guild's going to talk about Crimes at Heart. Jan's Wanderings, we're going to find out what Jan wants to talk about. The Russian Winter Festival, they were on before, but they're going to talk about hair braiding. Now that's something that's interesting, isn't it? And then we're going to talk about taxes. Oh, who knows about those taxes? So those are coming up. And I do, you know, I mentioned this before, or maybe I don't mention it enough, but at the end of my list of all the shows coming up, of the guests coming up, I want to remind you to do an act of kindness today. I mean, it's just so important because it's contagious. And I'm sure that, and I'm going to say this every week because I see people sometimes are rude and they shouldn't be. Just an act of kindness, whether you open a door for somebody.
Yes.
And I'm sure Girl Scouts are known for kindness.
We absolutely encourage that amongst all of our girls and our adult leaders and
Yeah.
members.
Yeah.
It's part of not just our promise, but our Girl Scout law.
Yeah.
So yes, and paying it forward.
Yeah, pay it forward because
Yes.
it's important to, you know, and it is contagious. It's funny how, like, I notice, like, I'm driving and I see somebody wanting to come in and I slow up and I go like that, or I flash
Right.
my lights, let them go. And then I'll notice him do that for somebody else.
Yes, or sometimes if I'm really feeling generous at Starbucks drive-through,
You buy
I'll
a cup of
ask-
coffee for the
I'll
person.
buy a coffee for the person behind me if they've ordered
Yeah.
the coffee, and I don't even know who they are.
It doesn't make any difference. It makes
Yes.
them feel good, though, doesn't it?
It does, and they
Yeah.
kind of wonder and hopefully pay it forward to the person behind them or some other way in their life.
Yeah, and you never know what, and we've talked about this earlier, you never know what somebody's going through, and that little act of kindness changes their whole.
It does. I started doing it because I was the recipient once of
Yeah.
somebody who did that for me.
So that's
So
what
it-
Girl Scouting is about. Is you're
Yes.
teaching kids to be respectful, to learn how to manage their lives
Yes.
and to be kind and to pay it forward.
Yes.
So please, if you've got kids that have girls.
Yes,
We
ma'am,
want
girls.
them to join, and they have summer camp. They have so much going on.
We've got great programs. Contact us on our website, www.girlscoutsneny.org. We'd love to have your daughters, your nieces, your granddaughters join us.
And be a leader.
Yes, for sure. Think of joining us as a leader. We would also welcome leaders as well.
Absolutely. We've been talking with Mary. She's the CEO of the Girl Scouts of Northeastern New York, and she's been on before, and sometimes she brings Girl Scouts and sometimes she doesn't, but this time we're talking about the Girl Scout cookie sale. Buy a box or 2 or 3 or 4, and those Thin Mints, they will not last at your house. She can say all you want about freezing them. You're going to eat them frozen. Thanks so much for being here
Yes, thank you
today.
for having me.
Sure, always a pleasure.
Yes.